We have already seen the blow that federalism took with the change in the manner in which the Senate was elected. The coup de grace comes with Congress's spending power. You see, Congress can only regulate in the 16 discrete areas given to it in the Constitution, only one of which is the Commerce Clause. But it can spend your money on anything it wants. So, if you went to the legislature of South Dakota and said, if you lower your speed limit, I'll give you $100 million, you'd be arrested for attempted bribery, offering a thing of value to a government official in return for that official's exercise of governmental power. But the Congress does that all the time. So the Congress said to all 50 states, lower the speed limit, lower the blood alcohol content, raise the age at which people can purchase alcohol, and we will repave the federal highways in your state. And 49 states accepted that bargain. And they lowered their speed limits. They lowered the permissible level of alcohol in the veins. What business is it of the Congress what the alcohol is in your veins? But the nanny-staters and busybodies over there prevailed. And they raised the age at which you can purchase alcohol, and they accepted this cash, and the highways were repaved, except for one state. And that state, South Dakota, said, forget about it. We'll take the cash because you're offering it, but we're not going to comply with these strings because the strings are unconstitutional. Because for 200 years, we decided the speed limit, and we decided the blood alcohol content, and we decided the regulation of the sale of alcohol. And so the case goes to the Supreme Court of the United States of America, and the Supreme Court, in an infamous opinion, says Congress can spend the people's money any way it wants, and Congress can put any strings on it that it pleases, and the states are free to accept or reject those strings. So, South Dakota, you want that $100 million? Lower the speed limit, raise the age at which alcohol can be sold, lower the permissible blood alcohol content in the veins in order to convict for DWI. What left-wing Chief Justice of the Supreme Court wrote this monstrosity? William Rehnquist. What liberal, out-of-control big government president signed this into law? Ronald Reagan. Case is called South Dakota versus Dole. Dole is Elizabeth Dole, who was President Reagan's Secretary of Transportation, and it was she who the state of South Dakota sued, saying, give us the cash, we're not going to comply with the strings. Without a backstop, Jefferson would have said, without a revolution, without a constitutional backstop, without a Supreme Court to say enough is enough, the Congress will just continue to regulate whatever it wants, to tax whatever it can, and to spend money however it wishes. I'll tell you one more issue, because I mentioned the War of 1812. In Upper Marlborough, Maryland, the British troops marched through the town, and they seized 6 members of the local militia and threatened to hang them. And the mayor of the town, named John Hodges, organized the rest of the militia, and they kidnapped 4 British soldiers and threatened to hang them. So they're at a standoff. Hodges finds the captain of the British platoon and says, we'll trade our your soldiers that we have for the 6 town people that you have. The captain said, you have a deal. Townspeople go home, the soldiers go back. The War of 1812 is over. The Americans win. The British go home. Upper Marlborough, Maryland has a tumultuous parade at which Mayor Hodges is, of course, the central figure and the hero of the hour. And at the end of the parade is a viewing stand. He gets up, he gives a speech, standing ovation. The crowds are going wild. He steps down from the viewing stand and is met by 2 strangers, one of whom hands him a piece of paper, and the other of whom puts him in shackles and leg irons. They were federal agents who handed him an indictment for treason, providing aid and comfort to the enemy in wartime by returning their troops. All right. The Justice Department has had an unwritten rule since day one. Only 7 people have been prosecuted for treason in the history of the country. Each one of them required the personal approval of the President of the United States at the time of the indictment. Who was this radical that was President of the United States in 1812 and decided to charge Mayor Hodges with treason? Little Jimmy Madison, who wrote the Constitution. This has a very happy ending because the trial consisted of local townsfolk. They had been at the parade. The judge in the trial had been at the parade. There was no dispute as to what happened. Everybody knew what the mayor did. There was no defense to be presented because everybody knew who the mayor was. The judge says to the jury, oh, how the times have changed. Go across the street to the local tavern and deliberate there, and when you're finished, come and tell us, and we'll see what your verdict is. Whereupon the foreperson, the jury, raises his hand and said, we don't need to deliberate. We've already decided that the mayor is not guilty of treason. First instance of jury nullification of 12 farmers telling the federal government, go take a hike and leave.